It's striking how quickly the conversation around sustainability has matured. It used to feel like maybe a side issue for businesses, right? Like a small section in the annual report.
Mm,
But now it feels like it's absolutely central to, well, to long-term success.
absolutely. What was once maybe a nice to have is definitely a must have now.
Yeah.
And it's not just about looking green anymore, is it? It's about fundamentally changing how businesses actually operate and, create value. That's the real shift we're seeing.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. This isn't just another surface level chat about being eco-friendly.
Right.
We're taking a proper deep dive into ESG, environmental, social, and governance, and specifically those crucial key performance indicators, KPIs, the things that let businesses genuinely measure and manage and actually build sustainability into their core strategy.
Yeah. And we got some really good materials to work through. We'll look at actual examples of ESG KPIs,
Mhm.
some of the real world challenges companies face trying to implement these, performance management systems like the Balanced Scorecard.
Ah, the balanced scorecard. Okay.
Exactly. And also some really interesting strategies, particularly in financial services, for linking sustainability properly to overall corporate strategy.
Okay, great. So our goal for you today, listening in, is to leave you with a clear, sort of actionable understanding of the key ESG KPIs
Hmm.
and how leading businesses are strategically using them to build real long-term value and success. And hopefully we can do that without, drowning you in jargon.
Let's try.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the E in ESG, environmental KPIs. This is really where a company's impact on the planet comes under the microscope.
Right. The environmental piece is basically holding up a mirror to a company's ecological footprint. How much impact are they having?
So first up, carbon footprint, co-Euro emissions. This measures the total greenhouse gases a company produces, right? Usually in metric tons of co-Euro equivalent. Now, we all get that lowering emissions is vital for the climate, but what's the business case here?
Well, beyond the obvious ethical reasons, really getting a grip on your carbon footprint can unlock some big strategic advantages. I mean, if you move early, you can anticipate regulations, maybe even help shape them.
Made ahead of the curve.
Exactly. That gives you a competitive edge. Plus, energy efficiency often means lower costs. And let's be honest, investors and consumers increasingly care about this stuff.
Hmm.
It boosts your brand, helps with access to capital.
That makes total sense. It's not just ticking a box, it's about being smarter and more resilient, which kind of leads us nicely to the next one, energy consumption.
Mhm.
This KPI tracks a company's total use, electricity, gas, other fuels. Why is just knowing how much energy you use so important?
Because energy use is such a huge lever for environmental impact, and honestly, for costs too.
Right.
By tracking it carefully, businesses can spot the energy hogs in their operations.
Hmm.
Identify where they can make efficiency upgrades, reduce waste, and ultimately save quite a bit of money. Think manufacturing, heating, cooling.
Hmm.
The data shows you where the quick wins are.
Okay, following that logic, we have renewable energy usage, often shown as a percentage of the total energy used. We hear loads about this. Why are consumers and investors so focused on this particular metric?
Well, it's a very clear signal, isn't it? It shows how much a company is actively shifting away from fossil fuels.
Towards things like wind, solar, hydro.
Exactly. It's a tangible indicator of their commitment to a cleaner future. A high percentage says, we're serious about decarbonizing. And that really resonates with stakeholders who are worried about climate change. It definitely boosts reputation.
Water usage efficiency is next on the list. And with all the talk about water scarcity globally, this feels, well, increasingly vital. What does this KPI actually tell us?
It measures how efficiently a company uses water relative to its output. So
Hmm.
you might measure it and say liters of water per unit produced. The goal is to minimize how much water you take and use, especially if you operate in areas where water is already scarce. Companies getting this right often use water recycling tech. They optimize processes. It's good for planet, obviously, but also reduces their dependence on a resource that's getting more precious and potentially more expensive.
And then there's waste generation and recycling rate. What's the main environmental issue here, and what does a good recycling rate really show?
This one tackles the huge problem of waste ending up in landfills or incinerators. It tracks the total waste a company generates, and crucially, what percentage of that gets recycled, composted, or repurposed somehow.
So, diverted from landfill.
Exactly. A high recycling rate really shows a commitment to the idea of a circular economy, keeping materials in use for longer, reducing the need for new raw materials, and cutting down on pollution.
Moving beyond just carbon and waste, we've got air pollution and emission reductions. What other pollutants are we talking about here besides KO, and why track them?
Yeah, this looks at things like nitrogen oxides, no oxides, sulfur oxides,
Yeah.
guaiacais, and also particulate matter, stuff that really impacts local air quality and public health.
Okay.
So tracking these, alongside Sugoyero, is vital for meeting environmental regulations, sure. But maybe more importantly, it's about minimizing harm to the communities where the company operates. Cutting these pollutants means cleaner air, healthier people.
Biodiversity impact is another key area. It feels like this one might be more relevant for certain industries, though.
Definitely. Industries that interact directly with the land and sea, think agriculture, forestry, mining, real estate development, they have the biggest potential impact on biodiversity.
Makes sense.
So this KPI looks at what they're doing to minimize habitat destruction, maybe reduce deforestation, support conservation efforts. For these sectors, showing they care about ecosystems is becoming critical for keeping their sort of social license to operate
Yeah.
and managing risks linked to environmental damage.
And a company's environmental impact doesn't just stop at their own factory gate, does it? That's where supply chain sustainability comes in, what's being tracked.
Absolutely. Your overall footprint includes your suppliers. So this KPI involves looking at their environmental performance. Are they sourcing materials responsibly? Are they promoting sustainable practices?
Right.
Companies are realizing their sustainability is only as strong as the weakest link in their supply chain. You have to look broader.
Deforestation and land use is another critical KPI. What does this measure and why is reducing it so beneficial?
This one tracks how much forest land is cleared for business activities,
Yeah.
maybe for agriculture or building or resource extraction.
Okay.
And it also looks at efforts to replant or restore land. Reducing deforestation is just vital for protecting habitats, keeping those carbon sinks working to stabilize the climate, and also protecting communities that depend on forests. It's really about responsible land stewardship.
And finally, in the environmental bucket, sustainable product development. What does this track regarding what a company actually sells?
With consumers increasingly wanting greener options, this metric looks at what percentage of a company's products meet certain sustainability criteria,
Why?
like being recyclable, using recycled materials, having less packaging, or just having a lower carbon footprint across its whole life cycle. It shows how much a company is innovating to offer more environmentally friendly choices. Okay, shall we shift gears now? Let's delve into the algolus of ESG, social KPIs.
Absolutely. This is all about how an organization impacts people, its employees, customers, communities.
Exactly, the human element.
First up, employee diversity and inclusion. We hear this talked about a lot, but what specifically does this KPI measure, and why is it so important socially?
Yeah, it's more than just a head count.
Yeah.
It measures the representation of different groups, gender, ethnicity, age, other underrepresented groups across all levels of the company, from the shop floor to the boardroom.
And the why?
Well, a diverse workforce brings different perspectives, which
Right.
often fuels innovation. It helps create a more inclusive culture, boosts engagement, and generally strengthens a company's reputation as a fair employer. Plus, you attract talent from a wider pool.
Next is employee turnover rate. What can a high turnover rate tell us about the social side of a company?
A high turnover rate can be a big red flag. It often points to underlying problems like unhappy staff, poor working conditions, maybe lack of growth opportunities or pay issues.
Right, people voting with their feet.
Exactly. So tracking this helps businesses understand if they're keeping their people happy and identify areas where they need to improve the workplace experience to build a more stable, engaged team.
Workplace safety and lost time injury rate is another crucial S KPI. What's the main focus here? Why track lost time specifically?
Employee well-being is just fundamental. This KPI tracks how often accidents happen and how severe they are. Specifically, it looks at injuries that mean an employee can't work for a period.
Okay, so it's a measure of severity.
Precisely. A low rate indicates a strong safety culture, good risk prevention, a healthy environment. That directly impacts morale and, frankly, productivity too. Fewer disruptions.
Fair wages and pay equity, also under the social umbrella. What exactly are we tracking here, and why is promoting equity so key?
So fair wages is about making sure people are paid adequately, often looking beyond just the legal minimum wage. Pay equity is more specific, it asks. Are people getting equal pay for equal work, regardless of gender, ethnicity, or other characteristics?
None the benefit.
Promoting equity isn't just the right thing to do, it builds a more just workplace. That boosts morale, loyalty, and ultimately performance. People feel valued.
Training and development hours is our next social KPI. Why is investing in learning seen as a key social indicator?
Well, it shows a company's commitment to its people's growth and future. This KPI tracks the average training hours per employee. It signals how much the organization is investing in upskilling or reskilling its workforce.
Which benefits the employee and the company.
Absolutely. Individuals grow, and the company gets a more capable, adaptable workforce. Win-win.
Employee engagement and satisfaction, another vital sign of a healthy workplace. How do companies usually measure this, and how does it connect to social performance?
Often through confidential surveys. They ask about job satisfaction, the culture, whether people feel aligned with the company's values, that sort of thing.
Right.
High scores here are strong signs of a positive, supportive environment. And that's a huge part of social performance. Engaged, satisfied employees are generally more productive, more innovative, more committed.
Community investment and philanthropy looks broader, beyond just employees. What does this KPI measure?
This one assesses how much a company gives back to the communities where it operates. It could be financial donations, encouraging employee volunteering, supporting local projects.
Okay.
Basically, activities aimed at making a positive social impact locally. It shows the company wants to be a good corporate citizen, and that can really boost its reputation and social capital.
Customer satisfaction score, or CSAT, that's a standard business metric, but how does it fit into the social aspect of ESG?
That's a good question. While CSAT obviously measures business success, in an ESG context, it also reflects satisfaction with the company's ethical practices, how it treats customers, its overall societal impact, not just the product.
Ah, okay, so it's a broader view of satisfaction.
Exactly. A high CSAT can suggest the company is treating customers fairly and responsibly, which is definitely a key part of social performance.
Product safety and compliance seems pretty fundamental. How is this tracked as a social KPI?
Ensuring products are safe is a basic responsibility. So this KPI tracks things like product recalls, safety incidents reported by customers, and how well the company sticks to safety rules and regulations.
Makes sense.
A clean record here shows a commitment to protecting consumers. That's a core social duty.
And finally, for social, we have human rights and ethical supply chain. What key things are being evaluated here?
This dives deep into the supply chain again, but focusing on people. It looks at labor conditions. Are there safeguards against child labor or forced labor? Are working conditions safe? Are basic human rights respected all the way down the line?
So it's about ethical sourcing from a human perspective.
Precisely. It reflects a commitment to fair treatment for workers everywhere involved in making the product. Okay, ready for the G.
Let's do it. Governance KPIs. This is all about how a company is actually run, directed, and controlled ethically and responsibly.
Exactly. The structures and processes that ensure accountability.
First up, board diversity, often shown as a percentage. What are the main benefits of having a diverse board?
Well, a diverse board simply brings more perspectives, different experiences, varied skills to the leadership table. That usually leads to better, more rounded decision-making. It also helps the board understand the needs of different stakeholders better and can just improve governance practices overall. So this KPI tracks representation, gender, ethnicity, other groups right at the top.
Next is executive compensation linked to ESG. How does tying top executive pay to sustainability goals actually drive progress?
It sends a really powerful message, doesn't it? If the CEO's bonus depends partly on hitting carbon reduction targets or improving safety.
It focuses the mind.
Exactly. It signals that sustainability isn't just talk, it's a core strategic priority. This KPI tracks if and how ESG metrics are built into executive pay structures. It incentivizes the top brass to really push for ESG integration.
Anti-corruption and ethics violations, a critical governance KPI. What does this measure and why is it so vital for trust?
This tracks incidents of things like fraud, bribery, corruption, other unethical behavior inside the company.
Okay.
A low number of violations, combined with strong anti-corruption policies, shows a real commitment to integrity and transparency. And that's absolutely essential for building and keeping trust with investors, customers, everyone really.
With cyber threats constantly rising, data privacy and cybersecurity incidents has become a huge governance issue. What does this track? Why is it so key for responsible governance?
Protecting data, customer data, employee data, company data is just fundamental now. This KPI tracks breaches, leaks, any incidents related to data privacy.
Right.
A low number, alongside strong security measures, shows the company is managing risk effectively and safeguarding the information people entrust to it. That's a cornerstone of good, modern governance.
And finally, in governance, we have ESG compliance and reporting transparency. Why is it important not just to comply with ESG standards, but also to be transparent about it?
Transparency is what builds accountability and trust. This KPI measures if a company's following relevant ESG rules and reporting frameworks. You hear about GRI, SACB, TCFD.
Those acronyms.
Yeah. But being transparent and comprehensive in your reporting shows you're committed to these principles. It lets stakeholders actually see and assess how you're doing on ESG. Okay, so we've covered a whole range of individual ESG KPIs now, but as you said earlier, the real magic happens when these are woven into the business strategy itself.
Absolutely. Just collecting the data isn't enough. It has to inform decisions, drive strategy. So how do companies actually integrate these KPIs effectively?
Well, one really powerful tool for this is the Balanced Scorecard. You might know it's a classic strategic management framework. Traditionally, it looks at performance from four angles.
Right. There's financial.
Or stewardship, yeah. Then customer and stakeholder, internal processes, and finally, organizational capacity, sometimes called learning and growth.
Okay, so when we talk about bringing sustainability into this, does that mean we just add a fifth category, like a sustainability box?
Interestingly, the most effective way to create a sustainable balanced scorecard isn't necessarily adding a fifth box. It's more about embedding sustainability goals and metrics within each of those existing four perspectives.
Ah, that's
So you're looking at your financial goals, your customer relations, your internal operations, your learning, all through a sustainability lens. You ask, how does sustainability impact each of these?
That makes sense. It makes sustainability part of everything, not separate. Now, I imagine a lot of companies might first try to manage this using tools they already know, like spreadsheets.
Oh, yes. Very common starting point.
What are some of the typical problems they run into with that approach, especially trying to juggle all this ESG data?
Well, spreadsheets can just get completely swamped pretty quickly. Trying to manage data coming from different departments, keeping it consistent, rolling it all up for a clear picture, it gets incredibly messy and time-consuming.
Leads to mistakes, I bet.
Definitely. Inaccuracies, missed deadlines, just a huge admin headache.
And I can just picture the nightmare of version control. Who has the latest spreadsheet?
Exactly. You end up with V2, V3 final, V3 final final, all floating around. It's impossible to know what the single source of truth is. That makes strategic decisions based on that data pretty risky.
And trying to see trends or track progress over time in a static spreadsheet must be really hard, too.
It really is. You just get a snapshot. It doesn't easily show you how things are changing, whether your initiatives were actually working, how your ESG performance is evolving month by month or year by year.
Collaboration also sounds tricky if everyone's working in their own little spreadsheet silo.
Precisely. The whole point of a balanced scorecard is alignment. But if teams are isolated, using different versions, not communicating well, it's hard to make sure everyone's pulling together towards those shared sustainability goals.
And don't forget plain old human error. Manual data entry, especially with all these different ESG metrics.
Oh, absolutely. Copying and pasting data from various sources into spreadsheets, it's just asking for mistakes. And even small errors can mess up the whole analysis, lead to bad insights, and undermine everyone's confidence in the process.
Then there's the lack of real-time updates or dynamic dashboards. That seems vital for making quick, informed decisions today.
Yeah, spreadsheets are fundamentally static. You don't get that instant visibility into ESG performance that businesses need to react effectively. And trying to communicate performance using static charts from spreadsheets isn't always that engaging or clear for stakeholders either.
And I guess as a company's ESG efforts grow, spreadsheets just won't cut it anymore.
They just don't scale. What might seem okay for a small team starting out becomes completely unworkable as you get more data across more parts of the business, maybe in different countries.
Okay, so spreadsheets have limits. What's the better way to integrate ESG into a framework like the Balanced Scorecard then?
Well, this is where purpose-built balanced scorecard software really comes into its own.
How so?
It automates a lot of the data collection, pulling it from different systems accurately, which saves a ton of time and reduces errors. It gives you one central platform, that single source of truth we talked about, no more version chaos. You get real-time dashboards, instant reporting, immediate insights. Collaboration gets much easier because everyone's looking at the same data, using the same tools. And critically, these platforms are built to scale up as your needs grow.
What about looking back and forward?
Yeah, they usually offer great historical data tracking, powerful ways to visualize the data, and some even use AI now to help spot trends or predict future performance based on what you're doing. It's a big step up.
It certainly sounds like it. Now, let's zoom in on financial services specifically. How are they using this kind of integrated approach, linking ESG and the balanced scorecard?
Well, firms like KPMG have really highlighted how important it is for financial services companies to embed ESG deeply into their scorecards.
Hmm.
It helps them understand what's really driving performance, not just financial, but ESG performance too, and crucially, to connect their ESG actions directly to creating value.
And how exactly does integrating ESG actually create or enhance value for, say, a bank or an insurance company?
Oh, in so many ways. For customers, it might mean developing new green loans or sustainable investment products.
Right.
In the supply chain, it means pushing for more ethical practices from their partners or vendors. For investors, having a clear ESG strategy with solid KPIs makes the company more attractive. It helps with regulators too, better compliance scores.
What about internally?
Big impact there too. It helps attract and keep employees who want to work for a responsible company. It strengthens governance through better risk management. It can even open up new sustainable financing options through the Treasury Department. It influences product design, tech investments for efficiency, operations becoming more climate friendly, and just boosts the overall CSR reputation. It touches almost everything.
Wow, okay. So, for a financial firm that really wants to get serious about integrating ESG, what are the key steps they should be thinking about?
Based on what experts like KPMG are saying, a few things are key. First, develop your own internal ESG KPI framework, one that really fits your specific business and strategy. Don't just copy paste.
Okay, make it relevant.
Exactly. Then enhance your existing planning and forecasting models to actually include ESG factors. Don't leave them separate. Improve your ESG reporting. Make it accurate, reliable, timely. Provide easy-to-use self-service reporting tools so managers can see the data they need. And ultimately, embed a sustainable operating model. Make ESG part of how things are done day to day, not just a report once a year.
We also saw the term ESG Balanced Scorecard mentioned. Is that basically the same thing we've been discussing, embedding ESG in the traditional scorecard, or is it something distinct?
It's really a specific, intentional application of the Balanced Scorecard framework. It's explicitly focusing the whole scorecard mechanism on measuring and managing ESG performance across those environmental, social, and governance dimensions, but doing it in that balanced, integrated way.
So it uses the same structure.
Yes, it uses those familiar perspectives, financial, customer stakeholder, internal processes, and learning growth, but ensures ESG is fully woven into each one, aligning it tightly with the overall business strategy. It prevents ESG from being treated as a side project.
Could you give a couple of quick examples? What kind of metrics might fall under each perspective in an ESG Balanced Scorecard?
Sure. Under financial, you might track the ROI on your ESG projects or cost savings from energy efficiency.
Okay.
For customer stakeholder, maybe customer satisfaction specifically with your ESG actions or the positive impact of community programs. Internal processes would have those core operational KPIs we discussed, carbon intensity, water use, safety rates.
Got it.
And under learning growth, you could track employee training hours on ESG topics, or maybe the innovation rate for new sustainable products or services.
So what are the main advantages then of taking this dedicated ESG Balanced Scorecard approach?
The big benefits are, first, that truly integrated approach ESG isn't siloed. Second, you get a holistic view of your ESG performance across all the important areas. Third, it gives you a systematic way to track progress against your specific ESG targets. And fourth, it makes communicating your ESG performance much clearer and more transparent, both inside the company and to outside stakeholders.
This has been, well, incredibly insightful. Really mapping out those ESG KPIs and how to manage them strategically. It feels clear that knowing the right metrics gives businesses a real edge today.
Absolutely. Whether your driver is upcoming regulations or boosting your reputation, attracting investors, managing risks better, or just finding efficiencies, understanding, and strategically managing your ESG KPIs isn't really optional anymore. It's just essential for long-term success.
And the core message seems to be that genuinely weaving sustainability into your business strategy, using tools like a well-implemented balanced scorecard, isn't just about doing good.
No, not at all.
It's fundamentally about building lasting value, creating a more resilient, more responsible business for everyone involved.
Precisely. It's about seeing ESG not as a burden, but as a key driver of business value and resilience in what's, let's face it, an increasingly complex world.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to take away. Thinking about everything we've unpacked today, the ESG KPIs, the strategic integration, how will you apply this understanding in your own world? What steps, big or small, could you take to nudge things towards more sustainable and responsible outcomes, maybe in your work or even beyond? We'd really encourage you to explore the specific KPIs and frameworks we touched on and think about how they might help shape a better future.